heart rate's coming back down, time to move on to the next exercise. And for this one, I'm going to focus on one of my weaker areas that I've really been able to bring up in the past year or two, and that's the rear deltoids. We work a lot of the front and medial deltoid in a lot of the chest exercises, arm movements, and also shoulder exercises. But rarely do we really focus on the rear deltoid, which is key for helping to build a good chest too, because it helps keep that muscle balance. So if you see people walking around in the gym, they have this hunched over look, probably because they've overtrained their chest and front shoulders without focusing too much on the rear. So it's key that we work on that muscular balance as well as just that overall physique, the complete package. Let's get moving. I'm using a low cable row to work my rear deltoids, and I'm going to work them individually so I can give each one as much focus as I can, as opposed to doing them both together and having the more dominant side lead. You can just as easily do this exercise with dumbbells, being bent over, keeping good support in your lower back and keeping the abs tight. Or on a machine, using a pec fly facing forwards to really lock in and isolate the rear delts. But again, because this is power and strength, I really want to keep it to as basic movements as possible to work the whole complex of my muscle instead of just isolate it with one range of movement. I always give myself 30 seconds rest between working alternate sides, left or right. And that's because even though I'm really focusing on one particular muscle group, it's still going to affect my overall strength in the other side, if not just because my heart rate's up at such a high level. So just enough time to allow that heart rate to come back down and for me to put that same focus in on the opposite side. That really does hit the spot on the back of the shoulder. Okay, while I'm recovering before my next set, I want to touch upon some of the training tips and techniques that I like to do for this exercise. When you're bent down, think of it as a bit of a gorilla squat. So I'm keeping my knees soft, my hips go back, my chest comes down, slightly up, my back's flat, and I have that kind of soup dish bowl in my lower back going on, slightly curved. And slight bend in the elbow, but keeping the whole arm complex fixed. So as I'm pulling that cable out, the only area that's hinging and really working is, you got it, my rear deltoid here. So I want to limit as many different muscle groups coming into play, and although it's a free weight kind of exercise, isolate that main group of the shoulder muscles there. Okay, let's find a little bit more weight and begin to overload and stress that rear deltoid. One of the questions that I'm frequently asked is, do you have a dominant side? Is your left or right stronger? And like most people, I do have a dominant side. It's funny because my right arm is stronger, yet my left arm is bigger. And that tells me something. I'm always leading with my right arm, and I'm always starting a single arm exercise with my right arm. My left arm, if you think about it, gets a longer time to recover, so effectively it can come back stronger and therefore increases in size. At least that's my theory. So what I now do is, if I start on my right arm, finish on my left arm, The next work set, I start on my left arm and switch back to end on my right arm, and then one more time starting on my right arm. So basically what I mean is, whatever arm you finish on, start back on that arm. Yes, you may be weaker and you're giving the other arm more time to recover, but you're not allowing the body to build up a pattern where it's always going to have one arm starting. So left arm first. Another 30 seconds before moving on to my right arm. You know, I talk about different variables when you're training. The weight, your rest period, even the grip and the actual attachment you're holding can all come into play. But also think about body position. On this one I'm standing kind of at a right angle, perpendicular to the machine. But if I was to simply rotate round by about 30 degrees, I'm using a lot more of my upper lat, back area, and really then starting to focus in on my rear deltoid as opposed to go straight on at it in. So within your training journal, which I know you're all keeping, make notes of not just the weight and your hand position, but also your body position, and see which one actually you feel the most working on that muscle. It's all about trial and not error, but just adjustment. Okay, back with the right arm. What I find to happen there was, whereas before my right arm could manage 15, 16 reps and my left arm would fail at 12, starting back on my left arm in the second work set, I get a good 12 reps on my left arm and then 12 reps on my right arm. No longer am I able to feel like I can do more on the more dominant side. So try switching it up with left and right and then right and left.